when I look back on those photos of myself, it's almost like the exterior showing how I felt inside. I don't look like myself. Black, dark clothes. I don't think postpartum was really even talked about. I didn't even think to myself, there must be a way out of this, or surely I can talk to someone. How can I help myself with these feelings? I think I just ploughed through. And I remember arriving back from New York, dumping my cases, and the girls were like, oh, mummy, and wanted to catch up and find out what I was doing. And I wanted to hear about their school things. And I had to just go straight out because I'd already committed to doing a customer event.
Right.
And I opened my handbag, and then there was a note from my daughter, and she's like, Mummy, you're doing such a good job. I think at that point I was like, something's got to give.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. I am so excited about today's guest because, well, she's a fashion designer, but she is a fashion designer who just puts so much joy and colour into everything that she creates. Just looking at it makes me feel happy, and then wearing it is something else. She's also the mother of 2 daughters. It's Olivia Rubin.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. So happy to be here.
Good. I'm glad you're happy.
Like one of my first ever podcasts.
Really?
Yeah.
How old are the
really
girls?
Good. They are 9 and 11.
So you've just got the about to go into secondary school thing?
About to go to secondary school.
How are you feeling
I can't
about
believe
that?
it. Emotional. Just kind of want to stop time as well. I feel like time's just going by so quickly.
Yeah.
When you're in a moment, it feels like you're stuck in that moment and nothing's changing. And then in a blink of an eye, lots happens. And I can't believe I've nearly got a teenager nearly.
Buzz goes to secondary school in September as well, and I just can't believe that we're there.
I know.
Also, because I look back at like photos and videos and it literally feels like such a recent memory.
Yeah, I get you. I feel you. Because also I don't feel like that. I don't feel old.
I don't feel 11 years older.
I know, but then when you think back to when you were their age, someone in like their 40s or 50s seems ancient. So I'm like, I am that person now, but it's the adjustment of teenage life and girls.
Yeah. One thing I don't know how I'm going to feel about is the WhatsApp groups and suddenly being well, I don't think there's generally a parent WhatsApp group for secondary school.
No.
I think it's they go and they fly on their own.
I feel a slight twinge of relief of not having that WhatsApp group, but also I guess it's the safety net of having it, knowing what they're up to, knowing their every movement and being able to like give them more independence.
Yeah. I'm very bad though. I will pack Buzz's bag. His uniform will be at the side of the bed. So I do all of that stuff.
Yes.
But from year seven, I'm not really going to know what he needs in the same way.
No, I know. I feel like my eldest, I'm the similar with you with my eldest, and she's a bit all over the place and I have to organise her. Whereas my youngest, I don't know if it's a personality thing or a second child age thing, but she almost organises everything for my eldest. She's more organised than me these days. So it is a bit having to let them learn and go off and fly and make their own mistakes, which I'm trying to start to do a little bit more now in preparation, but I think it's just a part of growing up. I say, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to forget your homework, you're going to, forget things in senior school, and that's just part of life. I think the less we make of it, the better, like big deal of it. Yeah. She's just got to learn and not get stressed over it. That's my main concern, is just keeping anxiety and stress levels low. I think as long as she's excited by it, which she is, and I think there's that readiness to move forward and have new experiences, which I'm excited for her.
What was your childhood like?
I was thinking about this actually yesterday before I came on here. Yeah. And I actually recently, I don't know if it's an age thing or just the fact that I'm still, my closest friends are my school friends.
Really?
We talk a lot about school days and growing up, and I feel like I was just so lucky with like my childhood, with my family, with the relationship I have with my close family. And I think I was quite naive at school, thinking that everyone had that same bubble of love and kindness, acceptance.
So the fact that you're still mates with all of your schoolmates, are you all still living in the same area?
Similar areas, yeah.
Wow.
I know. Not exactly the same area, but we all live near our senior school.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a constant subject of conversation.
Really?
Yes. I think because a lot of us also have kids that age where they are going to senior school, it's relating our issues and our problems when we were at school to what the children are facing now.
Yeah.
It's quite a hot topic for us.
And I guess if you've had a childhood that you really loved and you had that experience at that secondary school that you really enjoyed, there'd be almost a temptation for all of your children to kind of follow that same route. But the reality is sort of 20, 30 years down the line, it's a very, everywhere's a different place than it was when we were younger.
It is. They both actually go to the same primary school that I went to now, which isn't the most convenient because we don't live in that area. But when they were little, I just really wanted them to go there. And they've loved it. And it brings back so many memories for me and for my mum. When she picks them up for school, she says, it's like picking you up from school all over again. So it was really sweet, and I felt really close to the school having them there again and being able to relive similar moments to me and wear the same uniform. But now that my eldest is going to a different senior school, it's an adjustment, and I think it's great that she's going to experience something different to me.
It's such a where they go to senior school, all those big decisions, where they go to primary, anything. I can never get over the fact that will always play such a massive impact on who they become, on their interests and everything like that, because it's about who they surround themselves with, the environment of the school, and what they push and promote. That has such a massive impact on them.
Yes, because it did have a massive impact on me. And as I say, like, my closest friends are still my school friends, which I don't know if it's rare or not. I guess a lot of people make more friends like at university or college or when they become mums or jobs, but they are still like my core, the ones that know me, that get me, that understand me. And I think it's a bit of a safety net having them there for any like problems or issues.
Yeah. Did you always know when you were younger that you wanted to have a family?
Yes. I think also because I grew up in such a safe environment and I got on really well with my parents. I think it was just a natural progression of thought that I would eventually have kids. I think I also wanted to, because that's what I came from, and a lot of people want that. I feel like my friends who come from a big family also now have like 4 kids, and I think it kind of echoes in that way when you're starting a family. Yeah. But I did always want kids. I did.
Was there a moment where you felt like the time was right to start trying?
I think back then it was more of an age issue. I know it's not that long ago. Like, my eldest is 11, but I feel like so much has changed in those 11 years from like when women are having children now. I feel like they're having children later. Yeah. So when I look back, I feel like actually I was 30, but now that's considered quite young. And I think if I was to have kids again, I probably would have waited maybe a little bit longer. But I did feel ready. So there's no regrets. Like, I wish I'd waited longer and experienced more when I'd got married. It was the right time, but I feel like there's not that pressure anymore. Yeah. Or less pressure. There's obviously still pressures from society and what women should and shouldn't do and when they should do it, all these rules, so-called rules. But I think I just followed my kind of gut instinct.
Yeah, I wonder if we'd go back to the start of us trying to have kids, whether that whole, because I was 30 as well, whether that thing, is it a biological thing that happens to our bodies where there's just suddenly that need and it has to happen now, and that becomes almost sort of that level of desperation for it to happen. Yes. Or whether there is that whole big thing of societal pressure, whether it's a mixture of the two, when your body suddenly goes, you know, whether you're just like in almost panic mode, whereas actually now maybe there is that whole thing of actually there's time.
Yeah, I think there's so much more of that now than there was then.
Yeah.
In many different aspects of motherhood.
Well, you see people having kids in their late 40s now.
Yeah.
Like Tana Ramsey was on a little while ago, and, you know, she had her last baby at 48. And I was with Denise Lewis last night, who fell pregnant at 46, thought she was going into perimenopause, and actually she was pregnant.
Oh my God.
You know,
wow.
So there are people out there that it is happening for at a later age.
I think that's great. I'm all for that. I don't think anyone should feel pressure from friends, family, or society to do anything. Yeah. And if they're riding the wave of their career or they're not ready, then I'm all for that.
Well, talking about career-wise, when you first started trying for a baby, where were you at in that world?
I think that also played quite an important part in wanting to have kids, because I pretty much, from starting fashion college all the way through to then starting a brand and working for other people, there were no breaks for me. It was like one continuous line of going from internship to job to freelance and
doing incredible work as well.
And I pretty much worked solidly from university. It was a 4-year course that I studied at Central St Martin's with 1 year in industry, and then from then I pretty much launched more of a wholesale brand, still under my own name, but it was quite intense, selling to buyers, traveling a lot. And then I think I got to the stage after I got married and we'd just moved house that I felt more of a need for a break.
Right. Well, isn't that
ironically?
I will have a baby because that will make me stop.
I know. I was like, I'm going to stop. I felt like I just needed a break from fashion.
Yeah.
I think I probably then, with the mind that I have, being quite organised and regimental in my thinking, was like, okay, break. Maybe I should now start trying for a baby. I don't know how long it's going to take. This would be a good time to have one. And and then I did.
Did you break before you fell pregnant?
Yes, I decided to wind down the business that was going at the time. I thought I wanted to freelance for other companies, have the flexibility that I didn't have in my own business, and thought about trying. And I got pregnant quite quickly.
Oh, really? Were you surprised?
No, but yes and no. I didn't think it would happen as quickly, but then I think if you're trying, you have to expect that. You never know.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised. Got a one from one type of work to another. So
quite
quickly, yes. I think the day I brought home my daughter was the day we moved into our house.
Oh, wow.
So everything was like quite full on at that time, which wasn't planned, but my eldest was early. So it was like new house, new baby.
Gosh.
Like no career.
Well, that's so much to happen in such a short space of time.
I mean, in hindsight, it was too much for me to deal with, but I didn't really have any choice.
Especially when you've taken that break to kind of ease that pressure, so you can kind of lean into, you know, motherhood.
Yeah, because me and my husband, we were living with my parents, and the house wasn't ready, but we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah,
there wasn't really space in my parents' place, and we had work to do on the house, so it was just going to be one of those ongoing projects. But it was a lot, because I remember feeling quite unfamiliar in my surroundings, and then having a new baby, and I was already quite a nervous, stressed mum leading up to it.
Right.
I'd had a couple of friends who had babies, but I feel like at that time the whole thing, you never know until it's your own. You never feel the same way. And I was always maternal. Like, I love kids and I loved my friends' kids and family, but it was a different feeling when it's your own.
Yeah.
I feel like I was a very nervous early mum.
What sort of mum did you think you would be?
I knew that I wouldn't be relaxed. Because I'm not necessarily, I am much more these days, but I've never been like a chilled person. Mm-hmm. I kind of like to know what I'm going to do. I like to have a plan. And I think that's maybe where myself and early motherhood butted heads almost, because there is no plan with a newborn. You've got to take it in your stride, and she was actually a really easy baby. So I think I was probably too hard on myself looking back, thinking I'm doing everything wrong. And, is there something wrong with... I kept on thinking there was something wrong.
Really?
Yes.
Well, let's go back first and talk about your pregnancies.
Yeah.
How were... Did they differ to each other?
Not really.
Really?
And they were both exactly 2 weeks, or is it 2 or 3 weeks early to the day. So they were quite similar.
Did you feel sick during them?
A little bit. Nothing major. But I didn't enjoy being pregnant.
What about it didn't you like?
I didn't. I feel like I'm not very earth mothery. So I wasn't embracing, the bump and I don't know. It wasn't that I hated being pregnant, but I speak to so many people and they love being pregnant. It was their most favourite part of motherhood, and they can't wait to get pregnant again. Were you one of those people?
No, I loved my first pregnancy. I think I felt more womanly than I ever had. Like, I loved everything. And then I think all of a sudden the baby wasn't there, and I was like, suddenly in a very different place.
Yes.
And then I think the subsequent pregnancies, my body just hated me. All the aches and pains, yeah.
It is funny how the body trains the mind to forget, because otherwise one wouldn't get pregnant again.
No.
My second birth was a lot more traumatic than my first.
So what was your first like?
Easy.
Really? Had you done hypnobirthing or anything like that during the local NCT?
I did at NCT, but nothing else.
And how did you feel going into it?
Nervous.
Did you?
Yes, because I'd had friends who had babies. Not that they relayed any horror stories to me, but I think it's that kind of apprehension and nervousness of going through something for the first time. Mm-hmm. But my first was easy, and I feel like that's quite a reflection of her character. Mm-hmm. They say that now when I talk to people about having children and birthing. A lot of people say that, like, the birth is almost a reflection of some part of the personality of the child. With my second was a nightmare. No, I shouldn't say that though. It wasn't a great birth.
I find it really fascinating because going into my first, I felt quite excited and kind of, I'd done all the hypnobirthing. I felt like, let's just see what happens. Did you know
what you were having?
No, I didn't find out with
either.
That's such a nice surprise.
Yeah, it's a nice surprise.
So good. But then I think going into the second, you've almost, even though I had a great experience with the first, almost there is another level of apprehension because you did it before, it went really well. But I don't know, I was just nervous going into the other birth.
The second?
Yeah.
I was, but don't you think I feel like there's a lot of chat amongst pregnant women and nurses that the second is automatically going to be easier than the first because you've done it once before. Yeah. So I actually think that I was less nervous going into the second. Yes, because my first was quite easy and not traumatic, and it all was quite quick. But with my second, I think I had that mentality already set in me, like, oh, I've done it once before, it's going to be okay. And like the actual birth itself, I found quite traumatic. It was like very long. They couldn't get her out. It was like super painful for me second time, way more. And the recovery was like months after.
Really?
Yes. Which I kind of wasn't expecting. But again, I don't know if I was listening to too much kind of NCT chat at that point.
And that's hard because you think, having gone through it once, you've kind of got to the point where you've gone, oh, well, we're on our own journey. Doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. But actually, you still crave that, I don't know, other people sort of having a reflection of your story in someone else.
Yes, because it makes me feel more at ease.
Yeah.
And I guess everyone's saying to me, oh, my second was so much easier and it was quicker, and all these, I don't know if they're called wives' tales necessarily, but it did a 180 for me, and it was the other way round.
And how did you feel after that?
It was really traumatic. I found it really hard to recover. The breastfeeding part I found much easier with my second, because my first I wasn't super, I think because of the nervousness that I was going through with her, I wasn't really like at one with breastfeeding. I did try it a little bit, but then when it didn't work, I kind of stopped immediately. So I wanted to give it more of a chance second time, which worked really well. But I think the birth had an impact on her as well, because she was like crying all the time, and everything that I'd been through the first time kind of came back, but in a more impactful way.
So the first time round, you were saying how mentally everything was quite heavy on you.
Yes, it was. It took me a long time to like feel like myself again, and then the age gap is about 2.5 years. So when I came round to having my second, I felt more at ease, having been through the process once and knowing what to expect almost. But I did find it probably less traumatic, because once you've been through something once, you're prepared. But it did take its toll, and I did feel that stress and anxiety creeping in.
Did you have postpartum with the...
I think I did, but again, I was discussing this with a friend the other day. I don't think postpartum was really even talked about that much about 10 years ago. I never felt like I needed to go and see someone or go to a doctor. But again, I think it's because I thought what I was feeling was just, I guess, normal.
Yeah.
But when I look back, I definitely had...
Well, you might have even had perinatal depression or anxiety if you were feeling that in the lead up as well.
Yeah, maybe. But I guess I just didn't, had no information about it. None of my friends had really suffered from it. I hadn't really, I guess there wasn't really much social media like 11, 12 years ago. So there wasn't that many resources about it. And I think it was just the unknown and thinking, it's just me, it will pass. I've just got to ride this wave. I didn't even think to myself, there must be a way out of this, or surely I can talk to someone, or how can I help myself with these feelings. I think I just ploughed through and tried to like ride the wave, but it did go on for a while. When I look back, I don't even really remember what my thought process was back then, because I felt like I was constantly like stressed and not being myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just not what you would have imagined motherhood to look like when, and also to stop and find yourself in that place, from having gone from a really busy work life into moving into having a baby, and then actually where you are then would have been so vastly different.
Yeah, I think that definitely played a part, the fact that I was so busy and all consumed by my career and what I was doing, to not having any of that, not even like a glimpse of it, and being thrown into motherhood with this anxiety. Definitely the combination of the two took its toll and had an impact on me, like to the point where I didn't even feel like myself. And recently, when I've talked about it, I've had like crazy amounts of women messaging me and relating to it. And I think when I first posted about this, which was a year or a year and a half ago, I honestly didn't expect the reaction that I had, but it related, and it really touched a nerve with so many women that I was then like, that was actually postpartum anxiety. I don't know if depression was the right word, because I've never been depressed or suffered from depression, so I don't know what that feels like. But how I describe it now would be some sort of anxiety.
If you could go back to yourself at that point,
and
say something to yourself, so as you weren't talking to people and you weren't sharing about how you were feeling, what would you say?
I would probably tell myself to go and speak to someone. And I think that was more taboo back then. Now I feel like everyone has therapy and they talk about it, and it's super common, which is great. Even with like my daughters, when I'm talking about things and I refer to someone who's, having therapy or speaking to someone, it's not considered taboo. Whereas back then, I think if I'd said that, everyone would have been, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I don't think I would have wanted that reaction back then. I felt like it was something that I had to deal with. But if I was going to say something to myself, then I'd say, go and speak to someone, go and get some advice, go and speak to someone who can help you come to terms with these emotions and these feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it maybe didn't feel safe to say things like that.
Yes,
10,
maybe.
11 years ago.
I feel like maybe part of me would have felt like a failure in some way, or that I wasn't doing a good job as a mom, or that I was inadequate. I think those feelings probably would have come to light more, but I kind of kept them in.
Which is also really difficult when you've been bossing it career-wise, and then you become a mum, which is, this thing that's meant to just apparently come naturally, and we've all got it within us, and actually then that doesn't go as you thought. I think that balance of that, like Jo Elvin was one of our first guests on this podcast, and she was talking about that whole thing of, being the boss at work and being in control and, being able to sort of lead a room, whereas actually when you're at home with your baby and suddenly feeling so out of your depth with everything that could possibly go on with this baby.
Yeah, it's true. They're very different experiences, and it was hard, I think, when I look back. And I think maybe because I wasn't aware of the emotions, I know I can verbalize them now and understand them more now than I did then. But I think what shows it to me more now is looking at the photos, which is what I posted on Instagram, with people saying, that's not you. I don't recognize you. And then when I look back on those photos of myself, it's almost like the exterior showing how I felt inside the interior, because I don't look like myself. And when I look at those photos, they bring back the emotions that I was feeling then, but it's almost like I expressed them through what I was wearing, which was black, dark clothes, almost, I think, afterwards becoming obsessive about my weight and manifesting other problems, like becoming obsessive about what I was eating and having to have that kind of control.
Yeah.
So...
And having control of those things that you're able to.
Yeah, but I obviously got through it and managed to find a way out of those. And I put that down to like starting my brand again.
So did you start the brand again between babies or after the second?
After the second, but very quickly after the second. I think I felt at that point, I'd done a couple of freelance projects in between for other brands, but I think when my second daughter was about 6 months, I started an art class again. And my husband has always been super encouraging. He's never said, don't work or stay at home. He's complete opposite, really encouraging, really supportive. And he was like, why don't you just go and do an art class? You love painting, you love creating. And I was like, you know what? Yes. I said, I don't think I can leave them for like every day, all day yet, but I started doing an evening class.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. And that gradually brought back my spark from going to painting again. And then I started to be more interested in clothes, because also I think it was a combination, having been burnt out in the fashion industry when I did have my first, and everything that I found negative about the industry kind of culminated in me not wanting to go back to that. So I just took it slowly, and I became interested in clothes and fashion again, and wanted to start making myself a few bits. And that was the turning point. I think if I hadn't have had that, I don't know where I would have ended up.
Were you kind of almost prepared second time round if things, I know you said before that physically things were much more difficult to get through. Mentally, were you more prepared for things to happen?
I was, but I don't feel like I had fully recovered when I'd had my yes,
almost like this is life now.
Yeah, I don't think it was 2 years of ongoing anxiety and worry, but I don't feel like I didn't feel like myself yet, even in those 2.5 years. I feel like there were ups and downs, but I hadn't fully immersed into like my true self, like becoming a butterfly. I don't know, but I didn't feel that there was like I suddenly got better and then I had my second and I got worse again. Or those thoughts were kind of creeping in throughout. And it wasn't until I honestly think until I started creating again, and as selfish as this might sound, like doing something maybe for myself outside of the mother arena. It doesn't mean that I don't love my children just as much, but I almost did feel a little bit guilty when I went off, even though it was an evening class and I had support and encouragement throughout. It's not like anyone was saying to me or judging me, oh, she's going to go and work, or she's going to go and do an art class and leave them. The baby's only 6 months. I had nothing like that. It was myself, which is, I think, in a way worse because you are your biggest self-critic in a way. But it was that brought me out of it gradually.
Did you feel that?
Yes, I did. Because painting again and being surrounded by other artists and then finding some designs that I liked doing and making myself my first piece was like, it changed me. And I can see it in the photos.
Really?
Yes, because I did a timeline from the past 10 years of how my exterior reflects my interior, and it goes from like fully black, like really, really slim, and then I wore like a red lipstick, and then I wore like a navy tiny coloured print skirt, and then it grew from there to like full-blown rainbow.
Well, the first sequin skirt that you made.
Yes, that was my first piece.
Yeah.
Back.
But that, like, how did that feel? Going from wearing black and grey to suddenly putting that on? Yeah,
it felt really good. It felt really good not only because it was colourful and it felt like me, because I'd always worn colour, and even before I had children, the aesthetic of my brand was always focused around colour, and that's what I studied at St Martin's, was fashion prints. So there was super focus on print and colour and creativity within surface design. But it was the feeling that I'd also accomplished something for myself. Although it was just a skirt, I felt like, oh, you know, I can't find this in the shops, and I've made it with the help of my pattern cutter, and there was a process making it that was almost soothing to me and maybe gave me that feeling of like being able to do something for myself again.
Because so much is about pouring it into the kids.
Yes.
So often we forget that actually we've got to pour love inwards.
Exactly.
It's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really where it started. And I honestly had because a question I get asked the most by people is like, how did you start your fashion brand? What was your business plan? But it wasn't, I didn't have one. I didn't even mean to start a brand then. I just started making clothes, and then it was when Instagram, I think, first started. I posted one, and then my friends saw it, and they're like, "Oh, I love that. I haven't seen anything like that around. Can I buy one?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then I would get DMs from influencers and celebrities saying, "Oh, I love your skirt. Where can I get one?" And it was a bit of an organic snowball effect to the point where I then quickly started a website just to be able to sell these pieces, and just started packing orders on my dining room table. And
how old were the girls at this point?
well, my youngest was barely even like 9 months. But ironically, I didn't feel stressed then. Like I had help with the kids, and I just kind of made it work. It was I didn't really know what I was doing really, business wise. I was like, oh, like lots of people want this skirt. What should I do? I better make a website. Oh, I better get
almost like trying to play catch up to what was going
on board. And I think the way that it was organically set up didn't make it stressful, because I obviously didn't want to add more stress to my life, but I didn't find it stressful then. I found it gave me back my mojo having these ideas. And then I thought, oh, this skirt, what else can I make? And I've realized now that being an ideas person helps calm me. Thinking of new ideas, new designs, or ways of marketing and socials in a way is my
But that's
calming.
why someone becomes a creative person. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to get caught up in the back end of stuff or the hows, like the creating of it.
Yes.
It's got to be the thing that surely leads most people into those worlds.
Yes, that is true. But I think from the full circle that I've done within my business, like growing it to the point that it got to, and then slowing down again, I feel like I have done a 360, and I've seen all the different angles of what having a business can be. And at the peak, I think I was probably like my most unhappy, because I wasn't really creating, I was managing. It felt like more of a corporate business,
which again is not what
it's not what it is. But I did study like business of fashion for 1 year before I started my brand after university, because I wasn't naive in thinking that having a fashion brand is just about creating and having ideas. It's so much more. So I wanted to be aware of what the business side would be, which I do. But I think when it's your own brand, you can't help but fall into that managerial role in some way.
And at first, did it feel like you had a nice balance of work life and creativity?
Yeah, it was great. The first year, or actually kind of after COVID, those 3 years, 4 years of growth was amazing, because I fulfilled so many dreams that I wanted. I think when I had my eldest, I'd always talked about and dreamt about being in Selfridges. I don't know why, but I'd had actual dreams, and I managed to manifest it, which is why I really do believe in manifestations. But I made a small collection, and they contacted me, and they wanted to be the first ones to have it in their store. And I said, this is really, really weird. I'd had multiple dreams about selling in Selfridges from when I was at uni all the way through, like a reoccurring dream. And then it was happening. I was like, this is really weird. Wow. Like, yes, obviously. So there were moments like that. And then getting to travel, which at first was quite daunting, leaving the kids behind, but was also exciting, and my own adventure. And then also growing up, seeing that I was doing something for myself was important to me, striking that balance. But
did they understand it at different ages as well?
I think they did. They did, because when I ask them now, they are very aware of my career and what I've done, and super proud. And I think they've learned a lot from my journey as well. But I think it's past those years COVID was incredible for me, for the brand, in the fact that it grew like 100-fold.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? You probably think at a time like that people aren't going to be buying beautiful clothes because they're at home. But actually, for some people, buying clothes that made them feel happy was one of the few things that they could do for themselves.
Yes, and I think the fact that my brand is centered around rainbows, and with the NHS and rainbows, and we did quite a lot of like charity collabs, and people being on socials and wanting to have that interaction. It was quite extraordinary, because I would be homeschooling in the day, and my husband was still working during COVID, and then packing like hundreds of orders at night. So I would go to the studio in my mask, in my gloves, get as much stock as possible, get all the deliveries to come to me, and then just be packing throughout every night. I've got photos of stacks high of boxes, and then our living room was essentially just like a factory, a warehouse full. Because I think when it first started, it was so unbelievable, and I had kind of flipped into panic mode because all the stores worldwide at this point, I think I had over 50 worldwide stockists were all cancelling the orders. And I was like, oh my word, what am I going to do? The factory's closing, but I managed to flip it. I suddenly thought during COVID, oh, what would I like to wear? And I thought rainbow loungewear. So I managed to get it made and produced and sell it during COVID. So it was quite a time. Yeah. It was quite a time.
And then at what point, did it feel like it was all running away from you at any point? Did you feel like things were coming, that the balance was off?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's very hard when opportunities pop up.
Yes. And I said to someone the other day, I used to feel like I could never say no.
Yeah.
Because I felt almost it was a sign of being ungrateful if I said no to things. Whereas now I'm very much, I have to see whether I can actually fulfill it while maintaining my level of control without, saying yes to everything is great on one side because you get to experience so many things, but I think it threw so many parts of my life off balance, and I became stressed. I became burnt out. I was choosing work-related events and commitments over child-related events that I actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I was making too many sacrifices. And I know, obviously, with what comes with having your own business is making sacrifices. Like I still do. It's a non-stop job. Yeah. It's 24/7. It's not like working for a company where you can switch off essentially at 5 or 6. It's ongoing, but I didn't really understand what the balance was until I felt burnt out and I felt upset and I felt unhappy, even though it was riding the wave of success. And I think there was one pivotal moment when I'd been traveling. I'd been to New York, and at this point, everyone thought, oh, wow, she's going to New York. She's going to Paris. She's posting these amazing photos of the collections in luxurious showrooms. But I didn't want to be traveling 4 or 5 times a year. It wasn't glamorous. I didn't enjoy saying goodbye to my daughters and leaving that life behind and then coming back and being jet lagged and having more commitments here. And I remember arriving back from New York and then literally just dumping my cases, and the girls were like, oh, mummy, and wanted to catch up and find out what I was doing, and I wanted to hear about their school things. And I had to just go straight out because I'd already committed to doing a customer event.
Right.
And I opened my handbag, and then in the bag was a note from my daughter, and she's like, Mommy, you're doing such a good job. And it it really makes me emotional. Yeah, that was the moment, and then I found the photo of it. So I think at that point I was like, something's got to give.
Yeah. So is that thing that my big thing is at what cost? I can say yes to things, but at what cost? And it's it's not a monetary thing. It's a family thing. It's how can you function if you're constantly being pulled into and you're feeling guilty the whole time and you're feeling run down the whole time and everything. I feel like you feel like constantly prodded in different directions the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that my eldest wrote that, and she wasn't I think if I look back now, I'm surprised she didn't be like, Mummy, I'm so annoyed with you. Why have you gone out and left me? Like, I don't want to be with like Daddy and the nanny. I want to if that had happened now, that's the kind of note I'd probably get in my handbag. But the fact that it was like, Mummy, just remember you're always doing such a good job. I was like, oh my God, like I can't. Like I just found it by surprise and I was in the taxi, and at that moment I've got the photo. I took a photo of it, and when I was scrolling back, pondering what the next step for me was, like a year down the line, and I was embarking on like slowing down and just deciding whether to stop or slow down. I looked at that photo and I was like, I'm definitely making the right decision. Because I think sometimes when I'd spent 7 years building up this brand, and I did say to my husband, I was like, I think I just want to stop now.
Yeah.
Like, it's enough. And he's like, do you really? Is this, this is like your third child in a way. You've put so much into it. It's all you. It's not like I've ever had investors or other people telling me what to do. It's been my own decisions. And I was like, I don't know. I said, I think I do. And he's like, why don't you just think about it? Like, it was coming up towards a Christmas time, and it's like, let's just have Christmas, think about it. And then actually I did, and I was like, I don't want to, but I only want to do the good parts of it. I only want to do the good parts selfishly. And he was like, well, do that then. What do you have to do? What do you have to do to make that happen? And then I did what he said. He's quite pragmatic. Unlike me, I feel like I quite fiery Scorpio. So I just wrote down everything that I really liked doing concerning the business and things that I didn't. And I gradually just slowed down and tried to make it work in my own way. And I think it's been the best thing that I've done, because not only has it given me more of a balance with home life and work, but it's also made me learn a lot more about sustainability within fashion. So it was almost like slowing down my life, but slowing down in the fashion world. Mm-hmm. And I've learned so much about it, and I've had amazing opportunities. Like, who would have thought, like, slowing down, telling stockists, I don't want to sell to you anymore, which takes quite a lot when you've got that many people stocking your brand and waiting for a collection. Saying no is quite hard, but I've realised, did I need to do 6 collections a year, each consisting of 30 pieces? It was thousands of samples being made and showed, and then not being able to choose what was going into the stores, and then coming back to me with all these terms and conditions. And I thought, I don't want that anymore. And I don't want that I don't feel that's where the future of fashion lies. So it also gave me a really deep insight and quite a steep learning curve into sustainable methods within fashion.
Well, like the jumper that you're wearing now. I know that I ordered that when it wasn't made yet. You know what I mean? Yes. So it's you're basically you're making stuff not to order, but essentially you're knowing more about how much is going to be bought.
And I'm not doing full collections anymore either. So I stopped doing the collections, which is great from a sustainability perspective, because I'm not overproducing, but I'm also taking away the pressure myself on having the designs done by a deadline, and that collection needs to be done by July and made by August and shown in September. All these different deadlines and rules and regulations I didn't want anymore.
Does it feel more organic now?
It feels way more organic. It feels more me, because I can spend time on designs. I can spend time, I'm still painting, so I can use those prints and paintings that I've done in my work. I can, and there's no waiting around either. So if I like something, I can just get it made, or I can put it up for pre-order. And it's very much a process with customers and followers as well. I want them to have a say in what I do.
Yeah.
I don't want the big buyers to have the say and then buy hundreds of garments, half of them go into sale, contributing to landfills, overproducing, when I can have like the interaction with my customers. So I almost swapped interaction with stores for interaction one-on-one with followers and DMs and customers, hearing their feedback on what they like and what they don't like. And I always ask their opinion because it was always important to me, but I never had the time to spend on that.
I mean, you said it was a slow process, everything slowing down. Was it a big relief, though, as soon as you did decide to take that step?
It was a relief, but it wasn't immediate.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do it in the right way. Like the team, I had to cut down. I had to move showrooms and downsize and do all the unglamorous things involved in fashion. But I then realized that maybe when I was at my peak, I wasn't really being my authentic self. I would show fabulous photos of collections, but not the reality of the situation of me being unhappy and of like making hundreds of samples and then half of them being like stored away and not used. And I thought, you know what? When I slow down, I just want to be myself. I want to show, you know, I am working in a tiny studio with 2 people and I am happy with that. Bigger doesn't necessarily mean better for everyone or for brands. Yeah. I hear a lot at the moment and I see a lot of female-run brands, which is amazing to see because, you know, I'm all for that and I'm very much a women supporting women type of person, but I can see how growing a brand and being like super successful doesn't always mean happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a point where you felt things were back in balance, and that sort of, how did that impact the family?
Yeah, I feel it's been about a year and a half since I've slowed down, and probably the past year, it probably took 6 months to get it into working and find a new rhythm. But the past year, I'd say, has been like one of the best years because I don't have to say no to things to do with family life and my girls, but equally, I don't feel like I'm saying no to work opportunities.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I was worried that people wouldn't be interested in the brand or wouldn't want to work with me from slowing down.
Really?
Yes, because I wasn't stocked in Selfridges anymore. I didn't have my own shop. I didn't have new collections. I didn't have loads of styles ready to buy. But amazingly, I've been working on 2. I worked with a sustainable fabric company. They approached me and I was like, wow, like, yes, I'd love to. And then another, I've worked with, ironically, like John Lewis, who I used to sell to. They were like, oh, do you want to make our bag for life? I was like, yes, like, wow, that's amazing. Like being able to work on projects that like I'm really passionate about now.
Yeah.
In my slow fashion phase is amazing. And I wouldn't call it a phase because I don't see it ending, but being able to work on projects that promote slow fashion and environmentally friendly is important to me. I'm still on a journey. I wouldn't say I'm fully sustainable yet as a brand because it's quite a long process, but I'm working on getting like my B Corp. I'm trying to cut out as much polyester as possible, being transparent about factories and where things are made. All of that has hand in hand become much more important to me.
It must be amazing as a mum for you know for your kids to be able to see you flying. But I wonder if it's even more useful for them now to see you slowing down and reassessing.
A phrase we've been saying a lot in our household is, it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
And actually my husband came up with that and he says it a lot, but it is. And I remind them as well, it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
Even if it means it has potential negative connotations, like it could be from anything small to signing up for something, a club that they don't want to do, or, you know, something more major, like I did, like completely changing my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I often think of when I'm in doubt, like it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You thought you were going to be an anxious mum.
Yes.
So what kind of mum are you now?
I can't lie and say that the
Still an anxious mum.
No, the anxiety has definitely died down.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm a more present mum. And whereas before, maybe physically I was present, I was always like thinking of work, things to do on my phone, on my laptop. And although my daughters would say I probably still am on my phone a bit, I'm much more present with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's important to me. Like, I want to hear what they have to say when they come home from school and not be like busy typing on my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I'm there for them more.
If you could write a letter on motherhood, who would it be to and what would you say?
I would think I would have to write it to myself 10 years ago, because I feel like I've come such a long way from then. But equally, I feel like it would resonate with a lot of women now who maybe are experiencing those feelings but can't vocalize them, don't know what they are, and are scared to get help. So I think I would write a letter telling my new mum self, go and get help, talk about these thoughts with someone, phone a friend. It's normal, it's okay, and there is a way out, and you don't have to do it alone. I mean, I managed to get out of that darker time when I was having those internal turmoil, but if I hadn't have done it myself, I often think what would have happened. So it's by getting rid of the stigma about talking about feeling.
Do you feel like
that?
I know we were saying how back then that conversation wasn't being had. Do you feel like the fact that it is being talked about a lot more now, do you feel like it's somehow healing in some way?
Definitely. I was driving along an A road the other day, and I saw like a big sign about, postpartum anxiety and numbers to call. Like, it's a lot more talked about now, and I actually think that's a great thing. It can only do good for more people to know about it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We end the podcast with you completing 3 sentences.
Ooh.
The first one. The first one is being a mum means.
Being a mum means being the truest version of myself, being honest, and being present, like I said before.
Since having children, I
feel like I'm being pulled in a million different directions. Yeah, I mean, as you know, there's never a dull moment. There's always a drama. It never stops. Those everyday phrases that you're saying to your friends, oh my God, I'm so tired. I think it's just a roller coaster of emotions.
And I'm happy when?
I'm happy when I'm switching off with my family in a moment, and I think to myself, enjoying something, and I'm thinking, I want to remember this. I want to bottle up this feeling and remember it.
Olivia, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I've absolutely loved this chat.
Oh,
thank you.
I didn't expect the tears, but things get
happens.
emotional here.
It does.